I didn't plan for it to happen this way. To be honest, if someone had told me this was how the night would end, I would have laughed it off. But here I am, sitting at my kitchen table, staring at a message on my phone that's starting to feel like the beginning of a nightmare. It all started with a simple question from Emily. "Are you sure you're okay with this?" she asked, as she adjusted her dress in the mirror. I watched her through the reflection, her fingers lightly brushing the fabric, almost as if she needed reassurance that everything was fine. I nodded, even though I wasn't sure about anything anymore. It wasn't the first time she had asked me that. Over the past few months, I'd grown used to her asking me if I was okay with things, like her going out for drinks with friends, staying out late for work, or even taking solo trips with her colleagues. I'd always said yes because what else was I supposed to say? I could feel the tension in my chest, the weight of something I couldn't name, a feeling that had been building over time, creeping in like a slow poison. But I didn't say anything. Instead, I stood by the door, watching her pull on her heels, her perfect smile never wavering. "Yeah, I'm fine," I said, my voice lacking conviction. I hadn't been fine for a while, but Emily never seemed to notice. Or maybe she didn't care. The night was supposed to be nothing special. A few of Emily's friends were coming over to our place for a casual get-together. I had no intention of staying long. I would show my face, sip a drink, maybe say a few words, and retreat to my den where I could avoid the inevitable small talk that always made me feel out of place. But tonight, things felt different. As the evening went on, I found myself drifting in and out of conversations, more focused on watching Emily than engaging with anyone. She was laughing too hard at some joke Mark told, her hand resting a little too casually on his arm. I noticed how she leaned in just a bit when he spoke, her eyes sparkling in a way that made something inside me twist. I told myself I was overreacting. Emily had always been friendly, flirty even, but it never bothered me before. But tonight something felt off. Like a veil had lifted, and I was seeing her, really seeing her, for the first time in a long time. My thoughts were interrupted by a sudden burst of laughter from Emily. I looked up and saw her talking to Mark again, this time leaning in so close that her hair brushed against his shoulder. That knot in my stomach tightened. I didn't want to feel this way. I didn't want to be the jealous, possessive husband. But I couldn't ignore the pang of insecurity that gnawed at me. I excused myself from the conversation I was having and made my way to the kitchen to get a drink. As I reached for a glass, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, expecting it to be a text from work, but it wasn't. It was from Emily's sister, Mia. "Mia, I need to talk to you. This can't wait." I stared at the message for a moment. I couldn't figure out what she could possibly need to talk about. I hadn't heard from Mia in a few weeks, and I couldn't remember the last time she asked to speak to me directly. She wasn't exactly someone I considered close, but over the years, I had gotten used to her presence in our lives. I felt a sudden urge to respond, to ask what was going on, but then I heard Emily's laughter from the other room again, and I froze. I wasn't sure why, but I felt like I had to know what was happening. I knew I wasn't supposed to pry, but the curiosity burned inside me. So I slid my phone into my pocket and stepped quietly toward the living room. The moment I entered, my eyes were drawn to Emily and Mark, who were standing near the window, talking in hushed tones. Emily was clearly focused on him, her face lit up with a smile that I hadn't seen directed at me in weeks. Mark leaned in, whispering something that made her laugh again. But this time, I didn't feel that familiar pang of jealousy. This time, it was something worse. I felt utterly invisible. The strangest thing happened next. As if she sensed my presence, Emily turned and locked eyes with me. Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second, but then she recovered, looking almost like she'd just realized I was there. The atmosphere shifted. It wasn't just the way she looked at me. It was the way she looked away so quickly, almost like she was hiding something. Mark, oblivious to the tension in the air, continued chatting away. But I couldn't hear a word he was saying. My mind was spinning, and I knew something was off. It wasn't just Emily anymore. It was everything. I took a deep breath and made my way back to the kitchen, feeling the weight of the silence pressing down on me. I didn't want to confront her right there, not in front of everyone. But my thoughts were racing, and I needed some time to think. I grabbed a bottle of bourbon from the cupboard and poured myself a glass. I could feel the burn as the liquid slid down my throat, but it didn't help. Nothing was helping. I felt this coldness creeping in, something I hadn't experienced in a long time. It wasn't just doubt anymore. It was a certainty. I wasn't just being paranoid. Something was happening, and I had no idea how to stop it. I didn't realize it, but I wasn't alone. Emily had quietly entered the kitchen, standing at the doorway, watching me. I didn't turn to face her immediately. I couldn't. Instead, I spoke, my voice barely above a whisper. "Do you love me, Emily?" It was the first time I had asked her that in years. Her presence in the doorway was almost like a shadow, silent, unmoving. I could feel her gaze on my back, but I didn't have the strength to turn and face her. I was still processing everything. The way she looked at Mark, the way she smiled at him, the way I had started to feel like I didn't belong in my own life. The silence between us felt suffocating, the only sound the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the faint clink of the ice in my glass. I could almost hear her thoughts, a tangle of excuses and half-truths swirling in the air, but she didn't speak. I could see her reflection in the glass of the kitchen cabinets, her face tense, her lips slightly parted as though she was trying to come up with something to say. I waited, holding my breath, the tension building. I could feel the weight of the question hanging between us like a sharp knife. "Do you love me, Emily?" I repeated, my voice steady, but inside, I was a storm. "Really? Or is it just convenient?" She didn't answer immediately. For a brief moment, I thought she might say something, anything. But the words seemed to get stuck somewhere deep inside her, unable to escape. She shifted uncomfortably, the sound of her heels clicking lightly against the tile floor, and then she took a small step forward. "Of course I love you," she said, but there was no conviction in her voice. "You know I do." I could feel her trying to sell me a lie, trying to make herself believe it. But I wasn't buying it anymore. The way she said it, with almost no emotion, made it clear she wasn't even sure of herself. That small crack in her voice, sounding almost rehearsed, was all I needed to know. "Really? Because if you loved me, you wouldn't be laughing like that with him." I replied, my voice colder than I intended. "You wouldn't look at him the way you do." I finally turned to face her. She was standing just a few feet away, but it felt like an entire world separated us. Her eyes were wide, caught between defensiveness and guilt. For the first time in a long time, I saw a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes, but it was quickly replaced with something else, something I didn't recognize. "I didn't." She stopped herself, as if searching for the right words, but none came. Instead, she took a step back, pulling away from the conversation like she always did when things got too real. "I'm tired, Nate," she finally said, her voice softer now, almost pleading. "I don't want to do this right now." I almost laughed, but the bitterness in my throat stopped me. She didn't want to do this. We'd been dancing around the truth for so long, and now she wanted to avoid it? "I don't think you understand," I said, my hands gripping the edge of the counter, knuckles white. "This is exactly the right time, Emily. You've been slipping away for months, and I've been too blind to see it. But not anymore." Her eyes darted around the kitchen, looking for an escape, but there was nowhere to go. I wasn't going to let this go. Not now. Not after everything. "I don't know what's going on with you and Mark, but I'm done pretending I don't see it. I see the way he looks at you. I see the way you look at him when you think I'm not looking." She opened her mouth to speak, but the words caught in her throat. I wasn't sure if it was guilt or shame, but she didn't seem to know how to respond. "Why didn't you just tell me, Emily? Why didn't you just say it? We could have talked about this. We could have worked through it." I could feel my heart pounding, the anger rising inside me. I had never felt more alone in my life than I did right now. Alone in my own home, in my own marriage, with the woman I thought I knew better than anyone. But it was all unraveling so quickly, I could barely keep up. "I didn't want to hurt you, Nate," she said, her voice trembling now. She had taken a step forward, her eyes welling up with tears. But it wasn't the apology I was waiting for. It was something else. I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to make things worse. By not saying anything, I snapped. By keeping me in the dark. Her face crumpled, and I could see the tears start to spill over. She wiped them away quickly, but it didn't change the fact that we were standing in this mess. This tangled web of unspoken truths and half-baked lies. "I never meant for it to get this far," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I never meant for you to find out like this." I stood there for a long moment, letting her words sink in. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to tell her everything would be okay. But the other part of me, the part that was finally awake to the reality of what was happening, was done with all the pretenses. "You don't get to decide how this ends, Emily," I said, my voice cold and sharp. I do. There was a silence that stretched out between us, a silence thick with everything we hadn't said over the years. I could see her breaking before me, but strangely, I felt no sympathy. I had nothing left to give. I'm done, I said quietly, my voice trembling with the finality of it all. You've had your chance. Without another word, I walked past her, leaving her standing there in the kitchen, her tears mixing with the empty air between us. It felt like the weight of everything. Our entire marriage, our entire life together, was lifting off my shoulders, but it didn't feel like a relief. It felt like the beginning of something much worse. I walked outside, the cool night air hitting my face, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I could breathe again. But little did I know, the worst was yet to come. I thought that walking out of the house, leaving Emily behind in that kitchen, would give me some peace. But the truth was, I couldn't remember the last time I felt peace. I hadn't felt it in months, maybe even years. It was as if everything I thought I knew about her, about us, had been slipping through my fingers for a long time. And now, standing in the cool night air, I finally realized that there was no going back. I walked down the street, my thoughts spiraling. My mind kept replaying her face, the way she had looked at me when I confronted her, like she was caught in a lie she couldn't quite explain. The tears in her eyes weren't enough to make me feel sorry for her. I had spent years excusing her behavior, telling myself she was just busy with work, that she needed space, that everything would be fine. But now, it was all unraveling, and I couldn't stop it. I pulled out my phone and stared at the message from Mia again. I had forgotten about it for a moment, but now it was like a beacon, calling out to me. I opened the text and read it again. Mia, I need to talk to you. This can't wait. I had no idea what Mia wanted to say, but I knew one thing. I couldn't stay in that house any longer. I had to get out, clear my head. So, I did what I always did when I needed space. I drove. I didn't care where I was going, just that I needed distance. From Emily. From everything. But as I was driving, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was running from something much bigger than just my marriage. Something had shifted, and I wasn't sure if I could get back to where I was before. About 20 minutes into the drive, my phone buzzed again. It was Mia. Mia, meet me at the old cafe. I'll explain everything. I glanced at the road and then back at the text. The old cafe. I knew exactly which one she meant. It was a small, run-down place on the edge of town, the kind of place people stopped at when they didn't want anyone to know where they were. A place where secrets were kept. It didn't seem like the kind of place Mia would normally suggest. She wasn't someone who enjoyed the gritty side of life. But now, I didn't have a choice. I turned the car toward the cafe, my stomach tightening with every mile. Something about this felt wrong. I had always assumed Mia and I were just acquaintances, really. Emily's younger sister, who came around once in a while, said her piece, and left. We never had much of a relationship. But now, as I drove toward that cafe, I was beginning to wonder if there was more to the story. More to Mia's sudden message. The cafe came into view, a dim light spilling from the windows, and I pulled into the parking lot. I stepped out of the car, my legs feeling like lead. The air was thick with uncertainty, the kind of weight that only comes when you know something is about to change, something that might not be easy to undo. I walked inside and immediately spotted Mia in the corner booth, her back to me. She looked different tonight, more serious, more intense. I had never seen her like this before. She wasn't the carefree, flirty younger sister I was used to. She was someone else now. She looked up as I approached, her eyes locking onto mine, and for the first time, I noticed the tension in her face. There was something heavy in her expression, something hidden just beneath the surface. I slid into the seat across from her, not saying a word. I didn't know what to say. The silence between us felt suffocating, but I knew I had to hear her out. You wanted to talk. So talk. I said, my voice colder than I intended. Mia hesitated for a moment, like she was searching for the right words. Then she leaned forward, her voice low and urgent. Nate, you don't know the half of it, she started. There's more going on than you realize. You've been living in a lie for months, and I need you to understand what's really happening. My heart skipped a beat. What are you talking about? Mia glanced around, her eyes darting nervously to the door. She lowered her voice even further. Emily and Mark, it's not just what you think. It's deeper than that. You've been right to feel like something was off, but you have no idea how deep this goes. I felt my breath catch in my throat. I was already on edge, and her words were only making it worse. What do you mean, deeper? Are you saying she's been cheating on me with him? Mia shook her head, but the expression on her face told me everything I needed to know. It's not just Mark, Nate. It's more. You need to understand that Emily has been hiding things from you. Things that I don't think you're ready to hear, but you need to know. She's been using you. All of you. The words hit me like a slap. I sat back in the booth, trying to process what she had just said. My mind couldn't grasp the idea of Emily, the woman I had been married to, the woman I thought I knew, being involved in something like this. But there was no mistaking the seriousness in Mia's eyes. I tried to steady myself. So, what? You've known about all of this. You've been keeping this from me? Mia looked down at the table, her fingers nervously tapping the side of her coffee cup. I didn't want to be the one to tell you, but I can't just sit by and watch this happen. I thought if you knew the truth, maybe you could make things right. But now I don't know. I don't know if it's too late. I could feel the blood rushing to my ears, the reality of what Mia was saying crashing down on me. But it wasn't just about Emily anymore. Something had shifted in that moment. It was like I had finally woken up from a long, twisted dream, only to find that I had been living in a nightmare the entire time. What do you want me to do with this, Mia? I whispered, my voice breaking under the weight of the words. Tell me what I'm supposed to do now. She looked at me with sad, knowing eyes. I don't know, Nate. But whatever happens, you need to stop pretending everything is fine. It's not. And if you want to survive this, you need to face the truth. The storm was already here, and there was no turning back. The silence between Mia and me stretched for what felt like an eternity. My heart was pounding in my chest, the weight of her words settling in like a thick fog that I couldn't escape. Everything she had just said hit me like a freight train, and yet, part of me still couldn't believe it. How could Emily, the woman I married, the woman I thought I knew inside and out, be capable of such betrayal? I leaned forward, gripping the edge of the table, my knuckles white. My mind raced, each thought coming faster than I could process it. Emily wasn't just having an affair with Mark. There was something else, something Mia wasn't telling me. The cryptic look in her eyes told me there was more to the story, but she wasn't giving it all up just yet. I had to know. I needed answers, no matter how much they would tear me apart. Mia, I said, my voice low, you have to tell me everything. What else is going on? What do you mean she's been using me? Mia shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her gaze flicking nervously to the door again. Her lips trembled slightly, as if she was weighing how much to reveal. She glanced back at me, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place. Guilt, fear, or maybe a little bit of both. I didn't want to say anything, she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. But now I see it's too late to keep quiet. Emily, she's been manipulating you, Nate. She's been keeping secrets from you for months, things she didn't want you to find out. Not just about Mark, but about her whole life. My mind spun. What was she talking about? Secrets? Manipulation? I felt like I was drowning in a sea of unanswered questions, and every time I tried to reach for the truth, it slipped away, just out of my grasp. Manipulating me? I repeated, my voice cracking slightly. What the hell are you talking about? Mia leaned in closer, her voice urgent, as if she feared someone might overhear. It's not just about Mark, Nate. Emily has been hiding a lot more from you than just an affair. She's been lying about money, about her work, about her past. She's been using you to cover up everything she's been doing behind your back. She doesn't see you the way you think she does. My mind was reeling. Was this really happening? Was I really sitting here, in a shabby cafe, listening to Emily's own sister tell me that everything I thought I knew about my marriage was a lie? I don't understand, I whispered, feeling the cold weight of disbelief settle in my bones. What does she want from me? Why didn't you tell me this sooner? Mia looked away, almost ashamed, as if she regretted getting involved in this mess at all. I tried to warn you, but I didn't know how to tell you the truth without destroying you. I didn't know if you'd even believe me. But now, seeing you in here, I know I've waited too long. I stared at her, my heart racing, trying to wrap my head around the gravity of what she was saying. Emily, the woman I loved, had been playing me all this time. But why? Why would she do this? What could she possibly gain from lying to me like this? And the money? I asked, barely able to form the words. What does that have to do with all this? Mia hesitated, looking over her shoulder again, as if checking to make sure no one else was listening in on our conversation. She's been using your accounts to funnel money into her own private investments. She's been meeting with people behind your back, and I think it's worse than just an affair. It's like she's building a life without you." I felt the blood drain from my face. Private investments? Meeting people behind my back? My mind couldn't make sense of any of it. How had she been so careful, so strategic, in hiding all of this from me? "And you knew all this?" I asked, my voice rising despite myself. "You knew all of this, and you didn't say a word?" Mia flinched, her eyes filled with regret. "I didn't know how. I wanted to help, but I didn't know if you'd ever believe me. I didn't want to make things worse, but now I see I should have told you earlier." I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor with a loud screech. The cafe seemed to close in around me. The walls, the tables, even the fluorescent lights overhead felt like they were pressing down on me. I needed air. I needed space. I couldn't think in here. I couldn't think at all. I didn't even wait for Mia to respond. I turned and walked out of the cafe, my steps unsteady as my thoughts raced. I needed to get to Emily. I needed to confront her, demand answers, and figure out just what the hell was going on. But as I drove back toward our house, I started to wonder if I was even ready to hear what she would say. If everything Mia had told me was true, there was no coming back from it. No fixing things. No pretending that everything would be okay. I parked the car outside our house, the headlights casting long shadows across the driveway. The house seemed darker than usual, as if the light had been drained out of it. I walked to the front door, my hand shaking as I reached for the handle. But before I could open it, I heard a sound, something that made my blood run cold. It was the sound of Emily's voice, faint but unmistakable, coming from inside. "I told you I couldn't keep doing this, Mark," she said, her voice shaky, as if she was crying. The words hit me like a slap, and I froze in place, unable to move. Mark, it wasn't just an affair. It was more than that. And the truth? It was far worse than I could have ever imagined. I stood there, frozen in place on the doorstep, every nerve in my body on high alert as I tried to process what I had just overheard. Emily's voice, shaky and filled with emotion, rang in my ears. And it wasn't just what she was saying, it was the context. She hadn't been talking to me. She hadn't been talking to someone from work. No, she had been talking to Mark. My stomach churned as I realized the gravity of what was happening inside my own home. I had to act. I couldn't just stand there, paralyzed by the weight of her words. Slowly, my hand pushed down on the door handle, and the familiar creak of the door opening seemed deafening in the stillness of the night. I stepped inside, my breath caught in my throat as I listened more intently. My mind raced, trying to piece together what had been happening behind closed doors. I had always known Emily had been distant, but this was a betrayal on a level I never thought possible. The living room was dimly lit, the only light coming from the faint glow of the television, playing some show neither of us had bothered to watch. I walked slowly, each step deliberate, as I tried to make sense of the scene unfolding in front of me. Emily was sitting on the couch, her head in her hands, her shoulders shaking with sobs. But the thing that caught me off guard was Mark. He was standing next to her, looking at her with a mixture of concern and something darker that I couldn't quite place. For a moment, they didn't notice me. I was a ghost in the room, standing just out of view. I could hear Emily's soft sobs, and Mark was speaking in hushed tones, trying to comfort her in a way that only someone who was too close could. The words that followed shattered the fragile shell of composure I had been holding on to. "I can't keep doing this, Mark," Emily whispered through her tears. "It's too much. I'm going to lose him. Nate will never forgive me if he finds out." I felt my pulse quicken as I stood there, unable to move, unable to speak. Emily, my wife, was crying in the arms of another man, confessing to him that she had been hiding something from me. But the real dagger came next. "I never meant for it to go this far," Emily said, her voice barely audible. "I thought I could keep it under control. But it's not just Mark. It's everything. The lies, the money, the secrets. He's going to find out sooner or later, and when he does, it'll be over." I could feel my hands begin to shake, but I couldn't tear myself away. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the scene in front of me. It felt like the floor had been ripped out from beneath me, and I was falling into a pit of my own emotions. Everything I had worked so hard to ignore, all of the little cracks that had been forming in our marriage for months, were now completely exposed. The truth was an ugly thing, and I was finally seeing it for what it was. Just as I was about to step forward, unable to take any more of their conversation, I heard Emily's voice again, her words hitting me like a ton of bricks. I don't know if I can fix this, Mark. I don't know how to make it right. He'll never trust me again. He'll never forgive me. I ruined everything. I couldn't take it anymore. I stepped forward, my footsteps louder than I intended, and the sound seemed to echo through the empty space between us. Both of them froze, and I saw the shock in their eyes as they turned to face me. "Is this what you've been hiding from me, Emily?" I asked, my voice steady but trembling on the edge of breaking. My gaze flicked to Mark, whose expression had shifted from one of concern to something darker, almost smug, like he was proud of himself for what he had done. "Is this the truth you've been keeping from me all this time?" Emily's face drained of color, and I could see her lips trembling, trying to find the words, any words, to explain away what she had done. But there was nothing left to say. The weight of the moment was too much for her to bear. Nate, I didn't want it to happen this way," she stammered, standing up quickly, wiping her tears away as if that could erase everything. "I didn't want to hurt you. I never meant for you to find out like this. I'm so sorry." I couldn't bring myself to look at her. I had spent so many years trusting her, believing that we had a foundation stronger than anything that could tear us apart. But now I realized how wrong I was, how blind I had been. "You're sorry?" I repeated, the disbelief evident in my voice. "You're sorry? For what? For the affair? For the lies? For using me as your safety net while you built a life with someone else? What's your excuse this time, Emily?" She opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. The tears continued to fall, but it was too late. The damage had been done. Mark, sensing the tension in the air, took a step toward me, a smug smile playing on his lips. "Nate, look, I didn't want to get involved in all this drama," he said, his tone dripping with arrogance. "But Emily's a grown woman. She can make her own decisions. If she's been keeping things from you, maybe that's on her." I couldn't believe the audacity of the man standing in front of me. My own wife had betrayed me, and this jerk was trying to justify it. My blood boiled, and without thinking, I took a step toward him. The anger and pain surged within me like a tidal wave, and I didn't care about the consequences anymore. "You think you can just waltz in here and make excuses?" I shouted, my fists clenched. "You think this is some game, Mark? You think you can just take whatever you want and leave everyone else in the wreckage?" Mark's smile faltered, but he didn't back down. "Calm down, man. We're both adults here. Emily's been clear with me about what she wants. It's not my fault you're too blind to see it." The words hit me harder than anything else. I had always been the one in the dark, the one who was too trusting, too eager to believe the best in people. But now, I saw everything for what it truly was, a betrayal so deep, so complete, that I didn't know if I could ever come back from it. I looked at Emily one last time, her tear-streaked face pleading with me for forgiveness, but I didn't know if I could give it to her. The woman I had loved was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. "I'm done, Emily," I said quietly, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "You've made your choice. And now, so have I." And just like that, I walked out the door, leaving everything behind. I don't think I fully understood the weight of what I had just done until I stepped out of the house. The cool night air hit me like a slap in the face, the sharpness of it doing little to clear my head. My hands were still shaking, but I couldn't seem to stop them. The adrenaline had worn off, leaving me with nothing but an overwhelming emptiness, the kind that makes it hard to breathe. I walked down the driveway, the lights of the house still glowing faintly behind me, but everything felt distant. It felt like I was walking in someone else's life, not my own. I was a ghost, and everything that once mattered to me, the home I shared with Emily, the life we'd built together, was just an illusion. A lie I'd been telling myself for far too long. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't care. I just needed to get away from the mess I had just uncovered. My car was still parked at the curb, and without even thinking, I climbed in and started the engine, the sound of the car's growl echoing in the empty street. I drove aimlessly, the miles melting away beneath me as I tried to make sense of it all. There had to be something more, something I was missing. I kept thinking back to Mia's words, how she said Emily had been hiding more than just an affair, how there were secrets buried deep beneath everything. But what was it? What could be worse than the things I already knew? The lies, the betrayal, The way she had been using me as a safety net while she built a life with someone else. I thought I had known her. I thought our love was unbreakable. But now I felt like a fool, standing in the ruins of my own life, watching as everything crumbled before me. I drove for what seemed like hours, until I finally pulled into a parking lot that I didn't even recognize. The headlights illuminated a dilapidated building with a neon sign flickering above it. A bar. I didn't even care. I just needed to be around people who didn't know my name, people who wouldn't look at me like I was a broken man. I stepped out of the car and walked into the bar, the stale air hitting me as I entered. It was dark, the kind of place where no one asks questions. No one cares. I found an empty seat at the far end of the bar, far from anyone else. The bartender gave me a quick nod, and I ordered a whiskey neat. My throat burned as the alcohol slid down, but it didn't make me feel better. Nothing could. As I stared into the glass, the reality of everything began to hit me harder. My wife had been lying to me, using me, and I had never seen it coming. I had been so focused on the idea of us, on the life we had built together, that I didn't stop to see the cracks forming beneath the surface. I didn't stop to see how far Emily had drifted from me, how little she truly cared. I wasn't sure how much time passed. The bar started to fill with more people, laughing, talking, living their lives like everything was normal. But for me, everything was anything but normal. I was still haunted by the image of Emily, crying in Mark's arms, begging him for forgiveness while I was standing there, invisible in my own home. The bartender refilled my glass, and I took another long gulp, trying to numb the sharp edges of reality. I didn't want to think about it anymore. I didn't want to think about Emily, or Mark, or the way everything had come crashing down. I just wanted to forget. But it wasn't that simple. Nothing ever is. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I pulled it out without thinking. It was a message from Mia. Mia, Nate, I know you're angry. I know you need space. But please, listen to me. Emily's been hiding something bigger than you realize. She needs help, and I don't know how much longer she can keep this secret from you. Please, don't do anything rash. Just talk to me first. I stared at the message, a knot forming in my stomach. What could possibly be bigger than what I already knew? What else was Emily hiding? I thought about calling her, asking her to explain, but I didn't want to hear another lie. I didn't want to hear her plead, her voice full of excuses. I was done with that. I had given her so many chances, and each time, she had proven that she wasn't the woman I thought I married. I placed the phone face down on the bar, my hands gripping the edge of the counter as I tried to steady myself. But my thoughts wouldn't stop. I had to know. I couldn't just walk away from this. I couldn't just let Emily off the hook, not after everything she had done. But what was the truth? What was the real story? I took another sip of whiskey, the burn in my chest doing little to numb the questions swirling inside my head. The answers felt just out of reach, like something buried too deep to dig up. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I knew I had to go back. I had to face Emily, face everything she had hidden from me, and find out exactly what had been going on. Because no matter how much it hurt, I couldn't live with the uncertainty any longer. The truth was out there, and I was going to find it, no matter the cost. By the time I got back home, the house felt more like a prison than a place of refuge. The lights inside were off, casting the entire space into an eerie, unsettling darkness. I didn't know what I expected when I walked through the door, maybe for everything to be different, for Emily to be there, waiting to explain herself, but it was just emptiness. The silence was suffocating. I stood in the doorway for a moment, just taking it all in. The smell of our home, the familiar creaks of the floor beneath my feet, the faint hum of the refrigerator, it was all the same. But nothing felt the same. Not anymore. I could still hear Mia's words echoing in my mind. Emily's been hiding something bigger than you realize. She said it with such urgency, with such conviction, and now I was left with more questions than answers. What was it? What could be worse than what I already knew? The affair, the lies, the money, the manipulation. How much deeper could it go? I needed to talk to Emily. I had to confront her. I couldn't go another day, another minute, living with this twisted version of the life we built together. I walked through the house, my footsteps heavy on the hardwood floors, each step feeling like a final countdown. I knew she wasn't here. I knew that by the time I came home, she would be gone. She'd probably packed her things, or worse, already moved in with Mark. The thought made my stomach turn, but I couldn't ignore it any longer. This was the reality now. The house, once a place of comfort, was just another reminder of the lies. I moved to the kitchen, trying to calm my breathing, but I felt a surge of frustration building. It wasn't just the affair. It was the years of manipulation, the years of pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. I had been living in a fantasy, believing that the love we shared was real, that we had something special, but I had been blind. I walked over to the counter where we kept the family photos, pictures of our vacations, holidays, and happy moments. I couldn't help but stare at the smiling faces, wondering how many of those smiles were fake. How many of those moments were just a facade to hide what was really going on beneath the surface. My grip tightened around the edge of the counter as anger bubbled up inside me. I picked up my phone and stared at it, willing myself not to call Mia, not to ask her what else she knew, what else I was missing. She had already told me more than I wanted to know, but I couldn't help feeling like there was something still lurking in the shadows, something I hadn't uncovered yet. Suddenly, the silence was broken by the sound of a car pulling up outside. I froze. I hadn't heard her drive up, Emily, or whoever it was, until the engine cut off. My heart skipped a beat as I rushed to the front door, my hand instinctively reaching for the doorknob, but I stopped myself. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was about to happen, it was going to change everything. I stood in the doorway, watching through the window as Emily stepped out of a car, her back turned to me as she walked toward the door. She looked different, more worn, like the weight of everything that had been happening was finally catching up to her. She was holding a bag in her hand, her steps slow, almost reluctant. I felt a wave of anger surge through me. How dare she come back here, after everything? I opened the door before she had a chance to knock. "Emily," I said, my voice tight with frustration. "We need to talk. Now." She flinched, clearly startled, but then quickly composed herself, pushing past me and stepping into the hallway without a word. She looked around the house, almost as if she were assessing whether she should be here or whether she should have left for good. I didn't give her a chance to collect her thoughts. I wasn't waiting anymore. "You've been lying to me for months, Emily. Not just about Mark, but about everything. And I'm done with the excuses." She turned toward me, her eyes already glistening with tears, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Nate, please. I'm so sorry. I didn't know how to tell you. Don't. Just don't." I cut her off. I've heard it all before. The lies. The apologies. I can't keep pretending that this isn't happening, Emily. Not anymore. She opened her mouth again, but nothing came out. She was trying to say something, anything, but I wasn't interested in hearing it. She had lost that privilege the moment she chose Mark over me. "I deserve the truth," I said, my voice steady, though every fiber of my being wanted to scream. "And I need to know, right now, everything. No more secrets." Emily hesitated, and I could see the internal battle in her eyes. She wanted to deny it, to cover it all up, but the truth was too far gone. She knew it, and so did I. "It's not just Mark," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "There's more, Nate. There's always been more. And I didn't know how to stop it." My heart sank, and I braced myself for what was coming. She wasn't just talking about the affair anymore. I could feel the weight of the words hanging in the air, and I knew, deep down, that this was the moment everything would change. "What do you mean, more?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mixture of fear and anticipation. "Tell me, what have you been hiding from me all this time?" Emily let out a shaky breath, her shoulders slumping in defeat. She looked at me, her eyes full of regret, but it was too late for that now. The damage had been done. Nate, I didn't want you to find out this way," she said, her voice breaking. "But it's not just Mark. It's everything. All of it. The money, the people I've been seeing. I've been living a double life, and I can't keep doing this anymore." Her words hit me like a freight train, but somehow, I was already bracing for the impact. The life I thought I knew was a lie, and now, standing in front of me, was the cold, harsh reality. This was the moment. The truth was finally out, and there was no turning back. I stood there, staring at Emily as her words settled in the air between us. For a moment, it felt like time itself had stopped. I couldn't quite process everything she had just confessed about the money, the lies, the people she had been seeing behind my back. The weight of it all was nearly suffocating, and yet, as much as it hurt, There was a strange clarity that came with the truth. Emily's face was tear-streaked, her eyes pleading with me as she took a step forward, as if hoping I would somehow understand or forgive her on the spot. But this wasn't about forgiveness, not yet. This was about facing the consequences of everything that had happened. Emily, I said, my voice low but firm, I don't know if I can forgive you right away. Everything you've done, it's going to take time. But I need to know something. Why? Why did you do this to us? Her shoulders shook as she sank into the couch, her head falling into her hands as she tried to control her sobs. I don't know, Nate. I got lost in all of it. The thrill, the excitement, feeling like I could have something more, something for myself. But I was so wrong, and now I've ruined everything. I've ruined us. I didn't speak right away. I took a moment to process what she had said. I had been so angry earlier, ready to walk away. But now, as I saw the woman I had loved break down in front of me, I realized something important. People make mistakes. Some mistakes are unforgivable, others might be healed with time. But forgiveness wasn't something I could rush. Not yet. I don't know if we can fix this, Emily, I said, finally sitting down across from her, my voice steady but uncertain. But I'm not giving up yet. Not completely. I need space, though. I need to find myself again. And maybe, just maybe, we can work through this. Emily looked up at me, her eyes full of hope, but also full of regret. You'll still try? After everything? I nodded slowly. I'm not making any promises. But I'm willing to try, Emily. We've been through too much together for me to just walk away without even trying to fix it. There was a long pause, and I could see the relief wash over her face, mingling with the sadness and guilt. She wasn't off the hook. She had done damage that couldn't be undone in a single conversation. But in that moment, I realized that healing wasn't just about forgiving her. It was about healing myself too. I had to find a way to rebuild my own trust, not just in her, but in the life we had shared. You don't have to figure everything out today, I said gently. I know it's going to take time. We both need to figure out who we are now, apart from each other. But that doesn't mean it's over. Emily nodded, her voice breaking slightly. I'll do whatever it takes. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'll do anything to make this right. I love you, Nate. I always have. I lost my way. I could feel the sincerity in her words, and while I wasn't ready to trust her completely again, I knew that the first step toward healing, toward moving forward, was going to be taking it one day at a time. There was no magical fix to the mess we were in, but I wasn't ready to let it all slip away without trying. We'll figure this out, I said, taking a deep breath. We don't have to do it all at once, but we'll figure it out. I reached out and placed my hand on hers, the first time in a long while that we'd shared any physical contact that didn't feel forced or distant. Emily looked at me, her eyes softening, and for the first time in a long time, I saw the woman I had fallen in love with. Not perfect, not without flaws, but real, vulnerable. And that, in itself, was enough for now. The road ahead wasn't going to be easy. There would be moments of doubt, anger, and frustration. But there would also be moments of growth, of understanding, and maybe, in time, of trust. I couldn't promise that everything would go back to how it was, but I could promise that I wasn't giving up on us yet. In the end, maybe that was all that mattered. We were both broken, but maybe, just maybe, we could rebuild something stronger, something more honest. As I sat there, feeling the weight of everything that had happened, I realized that this wasn't the end of our story. It was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where we would both have to face the truth, and from there, decide if we were strong enough to start over. Together.